All right, gentlemen. As you know, I hate to wait. Please introduce yourself one after another, and hopefully Jimmy will come anytime soon. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sean Griffin. I'm the Director of Corporate Development and Communications from nChain.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Roman Livson. I'm an investment banker. I'm a partner at Catalyst Securities in New York, an investment bank and a broker-dealer. I'm also Chief Financial Officer of Burkhan World, a family office investing in digital assets and making SPACs.
Hi, my name is Kurt Overley. I'm a co-founder of the Coruscant LLC family office.
Hi, I'm Matthew Whitcomb. I'm head of investor relations for TAAL.
Hello, my name is Roy Bernhard. I'm the chief visionary and CEO for Fabriik, a digital asset financial services firm.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Now I hand over to Jimmy, and for Christmas you get a watch.
Thank you. So today we're here to talk more about blockchain technology and how it can be used to create a more efficient and honest world, because a blockchain is just a way to manage and empower data in a better way than exists in the traditional ecosystems. Let me start with Sean. So Sean, nChain is a leading blockchain research and development technology company. You're working with an entire nation, the South Pacific island nation of Tuvalu, to create a national digital ledger using the BSV blockchain. Tell the audience about that and how it makes things more efficient for the country.
Yeah, maybe just a bit of background on Tuvalu, because not everyone knows about it. It's in the South Pacific. It's a series of 9 islands. There's only one ATM. There's no Visa, MasterCard infrastructure. Cash is actually shipped in by boat quarterly to make sure that the cash-based economy can function. And to make matters a little bit worse, rising sea levels put the entire nation at risk of being underwater. So a few years ago, it came up and we began talking about it. And really what we're doing for them is sort of 3 phases. So the first is registry services. So that would be using the blockchain to do things like citizenship applications and making that all available. And so they'll have good integrity of that data. From that, we'll follow on and we'll look at doing things like an entire digital identity. So that would be a single record for everything from healthcare to your tax returns and all of that. So in a single way. And then lastly, we're looking at doing a hybrid of a CBDC, so a digital currency, and maybe a stable coin would be the way that people would maybe understand that. And the purpose of that is really to help them sort of leapfrog an entire generation of technology. So they'll leverage blockchain and they'll be able to do that in a way that's really efficient, so that if worst case does come and the island does, go underwater, Tuvalu will still be able to function even if it is sort of remotely.
Let's go to Roy. So tell us about Fabriik and how you're creating a digital asset exchange and ecosystem to tokenize real-world assets.
Sure, thank you. So Fabriik is a collection of 5 core business units. We have a digital asset custodian, where we do digital and traditional assets and hold them in custody for anything from commodities to art to, it could be spirits, endowment funds, etc., to digital assets that are being created. We have a markets business that does market making and other trading. We have a digital asset exchange, a wallet, and digital platform for tokenization. And so fundamentally, the core of what we see and what we do is to take a regulatory first approach. There have been many businesses in the industry that have been getting involved and have grown over the course of the past 5 or even 8 years, but have not done so through regulatory first means. So we seek to do that properly, working with governments and regulators. And what we're able to do essentially is take any asset in the world and whether it's created digitally or we acquire it physically or we work with a partner who has it physically, like say a piece of art, we'll be able to take that piece of art and put it into a vault. Once it's in the vault, we can then take that piece of art and tokenize it or fragment it into 1 million pieces if we need to. And then we can take that and list it on the exchange in a secondary market so that people have it and it's accessible to people. And the beauty of that is that things that were accessible and available for the few will be available for the many. And we feel that in the future, if we really want to be responsible, if we really want the world to reimagine prosperity in the way that it can be touched by everyone, then by fractionalizing or taking assets and making them digital and fungible and then providing them to everyone around the world, we'll be in a much better place. And that's really the goal of Fabrique.
Let's go to Matthew. So TAAL is a public company in Canada, and it's in the transaction processing, or what some people call mining space of blockchain. Tell us about how your business plan and revenue model is really driven by use of blockchain for data processing more efficiently.
Yeah, sure. So TAAL, yeah, we are publicly traded in North America and in Europe as well. Where our main focus is, we are a blockchain infrastructure company, and we are focused on the microtransaction economy, the blockchain microtransaction economy. And we have three main revenue drivers. The first one is based off of the infrastructure that we have in Canada. And this is the actual Bitcoin mining, so the creation of Bitcoin SV. The second is the transaction processing part. So we allow clients, our clients are typically small to medium enterprises, and we allow them to get direct connection to the Bitcoin SV network. The third is a complementary revenue driver on top of the transaction processing business. So we have value-added services, and we have an impressive IP portfolio. So we have software fees, which are going to generate revenue from that as well. So if you look at all three of the revenue drivers and you put them together, because we're publicly traded as well, we provide Bitcoin SV exposure to our shareholders who have TAAL in their portfolio.
Okay, great. Kurt, let's go to you. Your family office, has exposure, investment-wise, to some of the Bitcoin SV, BSV ventures. Tell us how you got into that, and what are some of the companies you have been interested in?
Sure. So yeah, we're tremendously excited by the developments that are occurring, especially on the Bitcoin SV blockchain in particular, because we see it, frankly, as scalable, which I think is critical for all of your businesses. So we have invested in the ecosystem. We have exposures to companies like Unisat, for example. Their founder is a guy who spent his career doing enterprise software. When he came across the original Bitcoin white paper, the light came on. He said, "Wow, we can solve supply chain management with this tool." Ironically, he actually programmed that originally in Bitcoin.
Right.
As a lot of people don't know that had a programming script. But then when it actually forked to BTC, his software no longer worked. So he had to wait for BSV to come out for it to work again.
And let's go to Roman. So Roman, tell us about Burkhan World and your family office with respect to what you're doing with NFTs and other blockchain-based platforms.
Of course. So our family office is launching 10 SPACs this year. We are launching our first 3 SPACs, special purpose acquisition companies in America, this summer. The focus of all 3 is acquiring companies operating in the blockchain space across different verticals, from prop tech, property technology, artificial intelligence, and fintech in general. As far as NFTs are concerned, we have an application that we've funded that allows artists to monetize their art through the issuance of NFT. I wanted to spend a bit more time on this. We are mainly dealing with budding artists, not well-known artists, not mainstream. And for them, it's extremely difficult to start monetizing their content. So we start from ground zero, so basically telling them, look, you have 30,000 followers on Instagram. How about you ask them to pay $1 a month for previewing your work? So that gives them a start, and then basically they create their own channels. The followers turn into subscribers. And then NFT is a short leap from there. It's very close comparison to a bond, whereas monthly payment from subscribers is a stream of payment that is encapsulated in a bond, which is NFT.
Sean, let's go back to you. So nChain is developing various enterprise solutions and tools to make it easier for big businesses to use the BSV blockchain in particular. Tell us about some of the audit and accountability functionality that you've created.
Yeah, maybe I'll start with a bit about the platform that we're building, because I think that's important to understand first. So It's about the culmination of about 5 years of work in terms of nChain began really as a pure research and development organization, and we've built a platform over that time. And through that, we've really learned what enterprise is looking for from the blockchain. And part of it is integrity of their data. And so when we look at that, we think audit and accountability is a prime example of that. And what we mean by that is things like notarized documents. So right now, a tremendous amount of money is spent on ensuring things, so whether it's know your customer, KYC type stuff, and there's a lot of data redundancy in there because people aren't sure and they have to double check and recheck. So with the blockchain, what people will be able to do is notarize a document and then immediately understand if it's been tampered with. And so what that does is it will be able to streamline the process. So when we look at that, we're seeing that right now the estimates have it approximately 200 billion are spent annually around the globe on things like anti-money laundering campaigns. So when we look at that, if you have better data integrity, you can streamline that process. And so immediately enterprises looking at that saying, we'll be able to have better confidence in our data, we'll streamline our process, and we'll be able to focus less on regulatory compliance and more on what drives value for our business.
Great. So Roy, your company is also building a lot of its functionality on the BSV blockchain, even though it supports other digital assets. Tell us about some of the unique things you're able to do with the BSV blockchain that will make tokenizing and trading assets more efficient.
Sure. So when we first started on sort of the mission to build a financial services firm that was open and accessible to everyone on the planet, which is no small feat, but when we first started that, we sat down and we actually did a review of all the different technologies that were out there, from traditional technologies such as databases, all the way down into the blockchain space and across many different blockchains, from public to private and so on. And unfortunately, what we found is that many of the technologies out there simply didn't have the capacity to scale. They weren't fast enough, and they weren't able to provide us with the best value in terms of transaction fees. And when you're talking about tokenizing an asset, for example, a piece of art, and you want to make that piece of art, or even if it's a stock, let's say it's an Apple stock or an Amazon stock, or as before, maybe Netflix stock, and you want to make that Netflix stock available to someone who makes $2 a week, because why shouldn't they deserve the right to be able to hold an asset that may be 2 cents worth of that asset, but benefit from the brilliant minds that work at that organization that are working hard to create shareholder value? Why should that be inaccessible by that group of people? And so without the BSV blockchain, without that technology, we simply weren't able to do it cost effectively. But now we can do transactions at a thousandth of a penny. We can break that down quite substantially, and we can do that effectively, scalably. And so it really became a black and white technical experiment for us, and we were quite happy that we found it, because it really enabled the business to operate.
And Matt Whitcomb, your company only processes transactions on BSV. Why do you expect that will create the highest fee revenue for your business and shareholders in the future?
Yeah, well, we're obviously big supporters of Bitcoin SV, and to Roy's point, it really comes down to what our clients demanded, and they needed a blockchain which was scalable, which was fast, had great speed to it, and was cost effective. And this is the beauty and the magic behind the blockchain technology, and in particular Bitcoin SV. It has all those. It can do thousands of transactions per second. It's cost effective. It's less than 1 US cent USD per transaction. And it's pretty much in real time as well. So our clients needed a blockchain to support their businesses. So if you're a business trying to build onto a certain blockchain, Bitcoin SV is the one that can help them scale and make it cost effective and make it real and speedy for them.
Okay. Roman, one of the hot issues with Bitcoin these days is whether or not mining a Bitcoin is environmentally friendly or not. And you have been involved with some of your work partners to efforts to make digital asset mining more sustainable. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I'd like to start with a little background. We started mining Bitcoin about 5 years ago. We found out early that we need 3 things. We need good connectivity, which was there. It was in Buffalo and Niagara Falls. We need cheap electricity, and we need cheap computers. So out of the Another thing was called climate, because these machines, the rigs take up a lot of power and they produce a lot of energy. So when I walked into that warehouse in Niagara Falls in the middle of the winter, it was as hot as here. So that tells you how much energy is being wasted or being produced, being consumed in the process. Putting it into the global context, Bitcoin mining around the world takes up more energy than the country of Argentina. So this event, this summit, we talked a lot about the socially responsible investment, about SEG. So something has to be done about it. Now, as far as the Bitcoin holdings around the world, slightly over 1% of it is held by institutions. So that tells you that they either don't want to jump into this first, they want to see what happens to it, or, which is more likely, they want it to be environmentally friendly. And we came up with a way to try and make it more environmentally friendly than it is, which is creating a green Bitcoin, which is a combination of Bitcoin and the certificate, which is called a renewable energy certificate, which are issued by IREX around the world. So these certificates are then stripped from Bitcoin and they're canceled. But the dollars that result from the certificate, they go into renewable energy. They go into planting new forests. They go into development of renewable power sources. So that's how we handle that problem. We think that's an evolutionary process, and this is the way to go.
Kurt, does your family office invest in blockchain ventures on other competing blockchain projects besides Bitcoin SV, and how would you compare against the other chains you've been evaluating?
So the short answer is no. I mean, we've taken a look at other blockchains. I've never been a fan of the crypto craze. Digital gold is, I guess there may be a use case for that. But frankly, I mean, we've had gold exposure before. We have real asset exposure in our portfolio, like oil royalties. But it's hard for us to get excited by, really, it's so easy to get exposure to gold. Who cares about digital gold? Ethereum is supposed to be the chain for the smart contract. But frankly, we've spoken to a number of different companies that started out putting their software onto the Ethereum chain and just to have it not work because it's just so slow and expensive. So clearly, I think from our perspective, and the proposed solutions for the Bitcoin BTC going to the Lightning Network, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but the Lightning Network requires pre-funding of the payment channels, which in our view is just an absurdity. Other chain solutions, Ethereum is talking about going to the proof of stake idea, and again, not getting too much in the weeds, but I think part of the real genius of the original white paper is coming up with a self-sustaining, public, readable, writable, immutable database. And having the right economic incentives through proof of work is, I think, in our view, it's key to lead to the reinvestment, the continued reinvestment that's going to make the network grow and scale to make the real revolution possible.
Right, I have the last series of questions for each of you related to investor-related issues. So, Matt, you have your data centers for TAAL mostly in North America, or all in North America, as I understand. Yes. And especially with this exodus of mining rigs from China that's been in the news recently, tell us why investors should care about that.
Yeah, well, we purposely have our data centers in North America, in particular Canada right now. It really comes down to our clients and our clients' demand. So a lot of the small, medium, and enterprises, they require the data to be processed in a trusted jurisdiction. And North America right now provides that for them. And the beautiful thing about our operations in Canada as well, Canada's a big country, and there's tons of water there. So there's a lot of renewable sources of energy as well. So that's important to be a blockchain infrastructure company. It's because we also have access to renewable energy sources, and it's cost effective as well. So the underlining probably value for TAAL for a shareholder to hold in their portfolio is that Bitcoin SV exposure. We're a pure play on Bitcoin SV, and this is, as I mentioned before, driven by our three main revenue generators, which is Bitcoin mining, transaction processing, and the value-added services.
Okay. Roman, tell us about the series of SPACs you're launching. SPACs have been a hot trend for a little while, and how they relate to blockchain.
Yeah, so like I said before, in the immediate future, in the next couple of months, we're launching three SPACs this summer. The size of them on the IPO will be, two of them will be 250 million, and there's going to be one of them for 400 million. We are going to be looking for acquisition targets in three verticals, in artificial intelligence, fintech, and proptech. We firmly believe in the blockchain technology that's here to stay. We think that creates enormous efficiencies for traditionally brick-and-mortar applications. Like anything to do with real estate is brick-and-mortar, but powered by blockchain, the efficiency goes up tremendously. So shortly after the IPO, we'll be analyzing a pipeline of potential acquisitions. And that's actually one of my purposes of coming here, to look at companies that we can potentially invest in and acquire.
And Kurt, as someone who's newer to the blockchain investment space, what advice would you give to other family offices and investors watching about how to find more real value in blockchain businesses out there, since a lot of people are scared or skeptical or wary?
Yeah. I think I guess a big problem with the industry is just the confusion of the crypto craze getting in the way of the really disruptive software development that's going on in the blockchain space, and we think in Bitcoin SV in particular. I think I would highly recommend that. Well, if you're very new to the space, and first is just do your homework, read. There are a number of groups out there, venture capital firms that have published extensively, and I recommend actually understanding both sides of the argument. Firms like Multicoin Capital have a bunch of publications that outline kind of the consensus view. They're very rah-rah about Bitcoin BTC being digital gold. Again, we're not very enthusiastic about that thesis, but that's a well-articulated view of the consensus. I think other groups like Unbounded Capital are basically articulating the contrarian view. So I would probably point there as a way to get the toes in the water.
Great. And finally, to close out quickly, to Roy and then to you, Sean. So Roy, you're a company looking to raise capital now, I know. Why should investors consider you?
Sure. So in one word, diversification. So we've built a digital financial ecosystem that gives investors exposure to various different verticals within the digital asset space, within the finance space. And for investors who are looking at, for example, specific technology pieces, or they're looking to actually get in and involved with the transactions and operations of the digital finance space, Fabriik gives people the opportunity to access across all 5 verticals that we offer, which lessens the risk quite substantially. It even gives them access to an NFT marketplace and other pretty neat things that are happening in the ecosystem.
Great. And Sean, you're also looking to raise capital at nChain? Why nChain?
And nChain is really focused on enterprise data. So I think that's important, is we're not looking at whether it is financial investment or speculation. We're looking at empowering enterprises so that they can trust their data. And so when I look at that, we really think that there's some unique opportunities, in BSV with its ability to scale allows us probably to deal with those massive transaction volumes that enterprise is going to need.
Okay, great. I want to thank all the panelists for sharing some insights about how blockchain is using data for more efficiency, and I hope you consider some of the companies up here on the stage.
Thank you.